Hello everyone, this is part 50 of What If Naruto Meets the Nine Tails Early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Lee, if you don't mind, I would only like to use taijutsu here, said Naruto. I've been working hard with Ero Sennin to raise my own taijutsu skill level, and I can't think of anyone else who would show me exactly where my taijutsu is. That is an honorable declaration, my friend, said Lee. Very well, show me just how far you've improved in your taijutsu, and if my own taijutsu cannot match yours in its youthfulness, then I shall swim out to the island and back 100 times. Isn't that island 5 kilometers from shore? That's 1,000 kilometers of swimming, thought Tenten. Yosh, let's get this youth-filled bout underway, shouted Guy. Fight! Lee had been the one to start the taijutsu match between himself and Naruto, already dashing towards the blonde Jinchuriki at a speed that resembled the spandex-clad Chunin with his weights off before Naruto left for his training trip. Obviously Lee's speed had to have increased, but if this is what Lee was like with his weights, then what would he be like without his weights? Konoha Senpu, shouted Lee as he performed a sweeping kick directed at Naruto. Naruto did as Lee had hoped and ducked underneath the high sweeping kick, leaving the blonde open for a lower kick. However, the moment the second kick hit, Naruto was actually able to block it with his arm, something Lee had not seen too many opponents able to do. Pushing Lee away, Naruto moved to the offensive, striking out with a series of punches and kicks that even Lee was finding himself having trouble dealing with. That taijutsu style. I know I've seen it somewhere before, commented Guy on the sidelines. Jiraiya-sama, that's not the style I think it is it? It is. Over the past 2 years, with help of some scrolls we found in the ancient ruins of Uzushiogakure, I've been having Naruto learn the Azuken taijutsu style, commented Jiraiya. I see, replied Guy. Then this will certainly be interesting. Guy-sensei, what exactly is the Azuken? Asked Neji. The Azuken is the formidable taijutsu style of the Uzumaki clan. It's a very powerful offensive style that is both controlled and random at the same time. As you can see, Lee's having a very difficult time defending against Naruto's attacks, which is what makes the style what it is. It's kind of like trying to fight against a whirlpool. You can only hold onto your composure for so long before you slip up, if even just slightly, and then the whirlpool has you in its vicious clutches. That's exactly what this style is. Naruto's current attacks are a sort of random attacks that he himself controls, trying to throw Lee off balance. Once that happens, the match is effectively over, as once an Azuken master has you off balance, they strike out viciously with a wrath rivaled only by the greatest of storms to devastate you. Only the most skilled of taijutsu users can escape once an Azuken master has you. Lee was currently doing everything in his power to stay on top of Naruto's attacks, which, as Guy had mentioned to his team, seemed to be doing everything they could to get the spandex-clad Chunin off balance. Lee decided to try and break Naruto's attacks by striking out at the blonde, but this just proved to be counterproductive as Naruto parried the attack and now took advantage of the opening Lee had created. The Jinchuriki landed to the top of Lee's C, just below the N, and that only forced an even larger opening that Naruto began to take advantage of. Now that Naruto had made his opening, Lee found the momentum in the attacks shifting from quick and debilitating to strong and vicious. As Guy had explained, Lee had been fighting the chaotic currents of the whirlpool, and the moment he gave in, even if just a little, the whirlpool moved in and hit him hard. Lee was now desperately struggling to keep Naruto's attacks at bay, and every now and then, the blonde would get a hit in. Lee had to get out of there and regain the momentum of the battle in his favor. Naruto-kun, your skills are commendable, and I am going to have to up it a notch if I am to live up to the youthfulness you are displaying. Gate of opening, open. Lee opened the first of the celestial gates, giving him the burst of energy he needed to break off from Naruto's attack. I see Lee was able to get out of that, commented Jiraiya. The Azuken will destroy most shinobi, however, Lee isn't most shinobi, commented Guy. Gyo Lee, take them off. Guy-sensei, asked Lee. You heard me, take them off and show Naruto the full extent of your youth, shouted Guy. Hi, Guy-sensei, replied Lee. Well, if you're going to relieve yourself of some weight, then I might as well too, commented Naruto as he revealed and deactivated the gravity seals on him. I see Naruto's learned the value of training with weights, commented Guy. They're not as bulky as traditional weights, but gravity seals have the same effect, replied Jiraiya. Ready, Lee? Asked Naruto. Yosh. Here I come, shouted Lee. The two combatants were in a blur of black, orange, and green. Whoa, fast, gasped Tenten, who was now having trouble keeping up with the two blurs. The battle momentarily slowed down as Naruto barely blocked a kick to his C, causing him to slide back. As Naruto came to a stop, Lee was already making his next move, dashing in a circle around Naruto at a blinding speed. Knowing what was coming, Naruto centered himself. Spiraling motions were one of the keys to the Azuken as they allowed for the most unpredictability. But to an Azuken user, someone who knew how to utilize spiraling motions, the situation Naruto now found himself in wasn't as bad as many would have thought. He just had to get the feel for Lee's own movements and then. Lee made his move, lashing out with a quick low kick that was meant to sweep Naruto's legs out from underneath him, which would be followed by a swift upward kick to send Naruto airborne. But Naruto could feel this coming and had reacted accordingly, going with Lee's own momentum and using that to put enough distance between the two to stop Lee's attempts to use the primary lotus. Naruto dodged that? Asked a surprised Neji. A lot of the Azuken's movements rely on spirals and vortexes. If you've noticed, a lot of Naruto's previous movements had him moving in a sort of circular pattern around Lee. The Azuken utilizes the movements of these spirals and as such, it can make use of external spirals, such as the way Lee came into the primary lotus, explained Guy. Azuken users understand how to go with the flow of even the most chaotic flow patterns, and that's exactly what Naruto did there. He went with the flow of Lee's initiating attack and was able to move away. It's something that very few taijutsu users can actually do, and it's one of the reasons that the Azuken is so formidable. You truly have excelled in skill, Naruto-kun. You even managed to evade my primary lotus, commented Lee. The two Chunin were off at each other again at insane speeds. Naruto was trying to throw Lee off balance, but now that Lee didn't have his training weights on, the spandex-clad taijutsu user was able to move fast enough to remain on his toes and to keep Naruto from gaining the upper hand. It's not the full potential of the Azuken, but considering that he's only been learning it for, what? 2 years. Naruto's actually rather skilled with using it, commented Guy. It takes many years and even decades before one can claim them as a taijutsu master in a particular style, and Naruto still has a long way to go before he can be considered a taijutsu master, but he's most certainly got a great deal of skill already. I'd agree with you there. It is quite clear his taijutsu's improved, but remember that's not all Naruto has. In fact, if there's one area of close combat that he's truly taken off in, it's with that sword of his, replied Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sama, no offense, but you're not the best teacher for kenjutsu. If Naruto's as skilled as you're mentioning, then he must have had another teacher to supplement him in that area, said Guy. Naruto spent the past 6 to 7 months training in the Land of Iron, under Mifune-sama, said Jiraiya as Tenten's eyes widened at that revelation. You mean the Mifune? The one who's earned the Mifune of the Infinite Blades? Asked Tenten. The very same. Even Mifune was impressed with Naruto's kenjutsu, commented Jiraiya. We were originally worried because Mifune commented that Naruto's style was a little unnatural in Mifune's eyes, but once he began working in some of the actual Uzumaki kenjutsu scrolls, he began to settle into it. The issue was the slight differences between Mifune's style and the original Uzumaki style. In my own opinion, I could count the number of people in the village who would be better than Naruto at the sword on one hand, if even that. And that was only after not even a year of training, added Guy. Damn, if Naruto's progressed this far in the span of 2 years. Coming from not having a refined taijutsu to being able to give Lee a good match, but then add in the fact that Naruto's apparently skilled at the sword, he's already got a high level of talent in ninjutsu, which was seen from the Chunin exams, and then there was that display with Fuinjutsu the other day. Throw the ability to control the QB into the mix and that kid's going to be a monster one day, thought Guy. As Naruto and Lee's match came to an end, Lee had shown to still have a higher level of taijutsu than Naruto, but the margin between the two was much smaller than even Guy had expected. But as it had been stated before, Naruto still had other, more potent, forms of fighting that he was not utilizing here. And who would have thought that after just 2 years of training, he could match Lee this well? Especially considering Lee had at least 4 to develop his own taijutsu. That's enough, you two, yelled Guy, before the two combatants could re-engage in their match. What, you're calling it? Asked Naruto. Both of you are very skilled and I have never seen such youthfulness explode out of either of you. But I am afraid that if this match were to continue, you would use powers that are not suitable to use on fellow comrades, commented Guy. That was a good match, bushed brows. You've really improved since I last saw you, commented Naruto. No, it is you who has grown, Naruto-kun, replied Lee. Yosh, that was an excellent match you two. You both should be proud, exclaimed Guy as he patted Naruto and Lee on the back. I do agree, however such a match has left me parched, commented Lee. There's a bottle of water in my pack, replied Jiraiya. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama, bowed Lee as he made his way over towards Jiraiya's pack and began digging through it, pulling out a bottle. Just make sure you grab the right bottle, commented Jiraiya. This water tastes kind of, Lee trailed off as the water in that bottle began to take effect on his system. Oh no, said Guy, shuddering at the thought of what was about to happen. Please tell me that wasn't sake. So the kid drank a little bit of alcohol. What's the big deal? Asked Jiraiya. If he were to look around, he would see the other two members of Team Guy also freaking out. Big deal. He can't have any alcohol. Hey, why you're just standing there? If you're not going to come, then I will, said Lee, who was now clearly drunk after that swig of sake. He ran towards the group before falling flat on the ground on his way over. I see your concern, the kid's a total lightweight, replied Jiraiya. No, you don't understand. Lee's a master of the drunken fist, panicked Guy as Jiraiya paled at that revelation, having heard the rumors of just how destructive those blessed by Kami with the skill of the drunken fist were. For the rest of the day, screams echoed through the field and surrounding landscape as Team Guy, Naruto, and Jiraiya did their very best to restrain a drunk and chaotic Lee, only to find themselves dragging their aching bee back to the hotel later after Lee had finally passed out when the alcohol worked its way out of his system. 2 days later, after recovering from Lee's drunken fist incident and taking one more day to simply relax and enjoy the sun, Team Guy found themselves at the gates of Ogasawara, it being time for them to return home now that they were rested and Neji had fully recovered himself from having the seal removed. Despite the initial dizziness from having the regression seal used, Neji could already feel more strength coursing through his Byakugan. After examining the seal again, Jiraiya had in fact realized that there were a few measures to reduce the abilities of the Byakugan by about 25% for anyone who bore the seal. Unfortunately for Neji, he couldn't flaunt his now sealess forehead around, especially with the Hyuga elders still in place. Despite Neji's own potential, he wasn't quite at the level to take on a Ro in combat and as such, he would have to wait a little longer before he and Hiashi could make their first move on the elders. Jiraiya had gone ahead and drawn a fake seal on Neji's head, using a simple permanent marker that wouldn't come off unless a little alcohol was rubbed on it, and Lee would be required to be far, far away from the sake when that time came. Naruto, again I cannot thank you enough, said Neji, bowing to Naruto at the city gates. Don't mention it, Neji. Although if you could do me a favor, then that'd be great, said Naruto. Certainly, replied Neji. Can you just tell Hinata-chan that I've missed her dearly and it won't be much longer until I'm home? Asked Naruto. I'm certain I can do that. She will be happy to know that you are doing well and miss her, said Neji. So when will we know when you've returned? Trust me, you'll know, said Naruto with a devious look on his face. Let's get going, shouted Guy. It's 4 days back to Konoha, so let's get a move on it. I thought it was a 10-day journey. Asked Naruto. Tenten and Neji sighed. It is. Guy-sensei, I feel we can get there in 3. Called out Lee, horrifying Neji and Tenten. Even though they liked their team, they absolutely hated traveling with Guy and Lee because of what they were doing now. Nonsense, Lee. We'll be there by sunset tonight. And if we're not, then I shall run 100 laps around Konoha on my hands, with Tenten atop my feet. Declared Guy. Yosh. Let's get going. Help us, pleaded Tenten as Team Guy and Jiraiya and Naruto parted ways. So Naruto, where are we off to now? Asked Jiraiya. Huh, you're asking me? Asked Naruto. I'll be completely honest. I've taught you all I had hoped to with the exception of one thing, said Jiraiya. Everything else, you know to the point where I can't really help you with. I'm not an Uzumaki so I can't help you that much with whatever you have left to discover in that sealing book and your taijutsu and kenjutsu are coming along good and all I think you need now is time and experience with those. So what's this you want to teach me? Asked Naruto. I'll be honest, I hadn't planned on having you learn this for another few years, but I do think you are ready to learn the sage arts from the toads, said Jiraiya. What? Really? Exclaimed an excited Naruto. He remembered Jiraiya telling him about senjutsu after the time Jiraiya kicked Orochimaru teams with it back when the sound 4 out of attacked his team. Naruto knew that with the ability to use senjutsu and also the kyubi, he was going to be kicking some serious Akatsuki. Yes, I think you're ready for it. But I need to work things out with the toads first and they aren't exactly the quickest to act on things like taking on another toad sage, said Jiraiya. All in all, I would say we have about 2 or 3 months before I can convince them and they agree. So, I restate the question, what do you want to do until then? You know, I actually wouldn't mind staying here for a while, said Naruto. Oh ho, so you're going to let your good old godfather stick around to finish his book? Asked a happy Jiraiya. The beach was a treasure trove of inspiration for his book and at the rate he was going, it would be done in about a month. I wasn't quite thinking of it that way, but if you want to finish your stupid book, I don't mind, said Naruto. What do you mean stupid book? You've read the first 3 and even you thought they were great. Shouted Jiraiya. Yeah, but most of the drafts you've given me were just kind of dumb, replied Naruto. Jiraiya sighed. So what's the real reason you want to stay here? Asked Jiraiya. Well, I kind of want to work on something that's been on my mind for a little. I can't exactly do it while moving around and with that field on the outskirt of the town being there, it's a perfect place for me to train. Besides, it's a nice place here and kind of relaxing. I need to remember to bring Hinata-chan here sometime, commented Naruto. Why? So you can see her in a swimsuit. Jiraiya saw a blush appear on Naruto's face. That hadn't been all the reasons, but it was one. Oh, I can see it now, that perfect figure, those D-cup B, and that irresistibly adorable face, all packed into simple yet revealing 2-piece swimsuits. You two are out on the beach and she asks you to rub some sunscreen on her, so you undo the back of her top and she lets out a little M of pleasure just from the touch of your fingers against her silky skin. Jiraiya looked over to Naruto to find the blonde passed out due to lack of B in his head. Partially due to a massive nose B and partially due to the pulling of B in, a certain. Jiraiya had taken that part from his Ika Paradise book, and he was pretty sure the beach scene had just come to Naruto's mind, only with Naruto and Hinata as the characters. A few minutes passed and Naruto regained consciousness as Jiraiya had taken him into a restaurant to get some breakfast. Okay Gaki, so what is it that you really want to work on? Asked Jiraiya. It's my Rasengan, replied Naruto. Oh, what about it? If there's any jutsu you can do right, it's that one, joked the toad sage. Well you see, when I talked to my dad that one time, he mentioned to me that it wasn't a complete jutsu, said Naruto. Flashback. So then I met Ero-sennin after Kakashi-sensei dumped me onto some closet L to train me for the Chunin exams, explained Naruto as he was telling his parents about how his life had been. Closet L caught Ero-sennin peeping into the hot springs and he tried to stop him, but Ero-sennin summoned this toad and laid the closed L flat on his A. Despite the fact that Naruto had been referring to Jiraiya as Ero-sennin and Ebisu as Closet L, his parents couldn't help but laugh, especially Kushina. She found it hilarious that Naruto had dubbed Jiraiya as Ero-sennin. Well, Ero-sennin took over my training and gave me the summoning contract for toads and then he began teaching me your jutsu, Dad, the Rasengan, told Naruto. So Jiraiya taught you the Rasengan did he? Asked Minato. You know, that reminds me that I never got a chance to complete it. Huh, what do you mean you didn't complete it? It works just perfectly, declared Naruto. I designed the Rasengan to take chakra shape manipulation to the ultimate form, but I never was able to add an element to it, said Minato. Add an element? You mean like wind, fire, or water? Asked Naruto. Yes, it took me 3 years to get that jutsu down, but I haven't been able to add an element to it yet. It would always blow up on me, replied Minato. Yeah, And Tsunade wasn't happy when you'd come into the hospital with your arms all chopped up every day, joked Kushina. I know. I'm going to complete your jutsu for you, too-chan, Tabayo, declared Naruto, getting a sigh from Kushina at the addition of the verbal tick. Naruto, you know you don't have to. I don't want you hurting yourself like I did, said Minato. I can do. Besides, if I'm going to be an even greater Hokage than you, then I'm not going to let silly things like not being able to add an element to the Rasengan hold me back, said Naruto. Besides, Furball can just heal me so it won't be that big of a deal. End flashback. Geez, that's going to be a tough one, said Jiraiya. Even I've tried to add an element to that jutsu and all I've done was fail. Well, I'm going to give it a go. In fact, I'm going to complete Dad's jutsu, just you wait, declared Naruto. Alright, if you really want to try it, then I'm not going to stop you, said Jiraiya. But what I think you should do first is make sure you've got the shape manipulation down perfectly. Huh, what do you mean? Asked Naruto. Well, the Rasengan's normally about the size of a grapefruit, right? Naruto nodded. What I'm saying is make sure you can control the shape of the Rasengan at different sizes. So you're saying that I need to be able to make the Rasengan either smaller or bigger and be able to control it as I change the size? Asked Naruto. Well, I wasn't necessarily meaning to change the size of the Rasengan in your hand, I was just thinking that you should be able to make sure you can control a bigger one that has more power in it, but that's actually not a bad idea, said Jiraiya. Yeah, I'd say make sure you can take the normal Rasengan and shrink it to the size of maybe a marble and then increase it to like the size of a beach volleyball or something. As for the element part, I don't have any ideas either. Which element did you try to add? Asked Naruto. Fire, but I nearly got myself K when it exploded, replied Jiraiya. I know your father tried wind. Yeah, and wind was going to be what I started with anyways, seeing as that's my strongest element, replied Naruto. Then I think you're already aware of what's going to happen when it destabilizes from the elemental chakra, replied Jiraiya. I am, but my dad didn't have my healing factor so I won't have to worry as much, replied Naruto. Well, I can see you've already got your mind set on it, and it's not like I'm complaining that we're going to be here for some more time. Just don't get yourself K. Minato nearly drove Tsunade mad when trying to complete the jutsu and the last thing I want is to take your chopped up body back to Konoha, replied Jiraiya. But, if anyone can do it, perhaps it's you. Hey, don't worry about a thing. I'll have it completed in no time, exclaimed Naruto. Look, the Rasengan's already an A-rank jutsu. If by some sheer amount of luck you pull this off, I'd believe that new jutsu would be at least S-rank, if not higher, said Jiraiya. Just to put that in perspective, the only other jutsu you have that is S-rank or higher is that regression seal of yours and that's not exactly a combat jutsu. S-rank jutsus are of a completely different nature than an A-rank and they're S-rank for a reason. Take Kakashi's Reikiri, not his Chidori. His Reikiri is S-rank because it can see through an actual bolt of lightning. And then you have Minato's Hiraishin, the jutsu that he used to wipe out an entire army single-handedly in a matter of seconds. That's the scale on which S-rank techniques operate on. A few days passed with Naruto working on what he and Jiraiya had come up with and that was to be able to fully control the size and shape of the Rasengan. Thanks to all of his clones, the blonde Jinchuriki had been able to create a Rasengan at varying sizes, from as small as a large marble to as big as a volleyball. Now there was just one thing left to do and that was to be able to form the Rasengan and change the size of it at will. Right, let's do this, exclaimed Naruto. He dispelled all the clones he had working on the different sized Rasengans and allowed the knowledge and experience to soak into his head. His first attempt began with a Rasengan of a smaller size, maybe the size of a ping-pong ball. Forming the spiraling sphere was easy, as forming a Rasengan had pretty much become second nature to Naruto. It was a small sphere sitting in the palm of his hand, the diameter about just less than half his normal Rasengan. As Naruto began to expand the sphere, something unexpected happened. Once the ball of chakra reached a certain size, it just dissipated in his palm, leaving nothing behind. Wow, that was kind of weird, thought Naruto. Usually, when they fail they blow up on me, not wither away to nothing. Doing it a second time, the same thing happened. Interesting. I think I know why, responded Kurama. Think back to when you were testing the power of each sized Rasengan. Weren't the larger ones more powerful than the smaller ones? Yeah, they were. The larger ones also required a bit more chakra, thought Naruto. Okay, I've got it now. As I expand it, I've gotta add more chakra. I can't just stay on the set amount that I started off with. That's why it's just disappearing, there's not enough chakra. Naruto formed the smaller sphere again and slowly began expanding it, adding in more chakra before it soon reached the size of the large Rasengan, which he had dubbed the Odama Rasengan, or Big Ball Rasengan, seeing as it was exactly that, a bigger and more powerful Rasengan. Okay, I've got that. Now for shrinking it, said Naruto as he began to shrink the sphere of chakra. As soon as it reached the size of a normal Rasengan, the ball of chakra couldn't take it anymore and exploded in the blonde's face, sending him flying back and into a tree. Damn it, there was too much power in that one, swore Naruto. It had been a few years since he had a Rasengan backfire on him like that, and now he was stuck listening to a certain fox laugh at him. However, now Naruto had an idea of what to do. If the smaller one dissipated because it didn't have enough chakra, then the larger one must have exploded because it had too much chakra. Oi, you okay, Naruto? Called out Jiraiya as he had come to check on his student's progress. Yeah, said Naruto, picking himself out of the rubble. Just lost it for a moment trying to shrink it, but I think I've figured out what I need to do. Oh, asked Jiraiya with a hopeful curiosity. The chakra is different depending on the size of the sphere. The bigger it is, the more chakra. But if there's more chakra than the size of the sphere can handle, it explodes. If there's not enough, it just disappears, said Naruto. So I've gotta add more chakra if I want to make it bigger, and I've gotta let some out if I want to make it smaller. Okay, let me see then, asked Jiraiya. Naruto nodded and made the small Rasengan in his hand. As he began to expand the sphere, he added more chakra to keep it from dissolving until it was the size of the Odama Rasengan. Okay, not bad. I see you've got the expansion part down, but can you shrink it? Naruto began to shrink it, letting out some chakra as the size shrunk. Once it hit the size of the normal Rasengan, the same point where it exploded on him the previous time, Naruto momentarily paused and braced for the potential explosion that never came. As he realized he was in the clear, he continued to shrink it until it was the size where he originally began. Hey, not bad. He was able to figure out how to make a bigger Rasengan in a few days. And not only that, but he also figured out how to smoothly change the size and power of the Rasengan as well, thought Jiraiya. All I did was tell him that he should be able to make it bigger and smaller at ease, and he was able to finish that in a few days without my help, really. Yep, he's definitely got a bit of his father in that head of his and not just his mother. Alright, I'll admit you've done pretty well. But you do realize the nearly impossible part is yet to come? Asked Jiraiya. I know, but I don't care how impossible it may seem, I'm going to complete my dad's jutsu no matter what. Declared Naruto. Well, it is getting late, so why don't we go back and grab some dinner? I've also got a draft I want you to look over tonight, replied Jiraiya. Naruto sighed as it was probably going to be another one of Jiraiya's crappy drafts. Surprisingly, that night Jiraiya had actually given Naruto a pretty good draft, giving Jiraiya another scene for his book and putting the L writer one step closer to finishing Ika Ika Tactics. It was actually kind of funny that a kid who had once called the Ika Ika book smut and insulting was now willingly editing and even adding his own thoughts to the story. Hell, Naruto had even completely rewritten one of the scenes for Jiraiya, and surprisingly, Jiraiya liked it. The kid had a knack for writing and romance, and perhaps the Ika Ika series would live on past its current author. The following day, Naruto now stood in the middle of the training field with Jiraiya supervising him off to the side. Today was the day Naruto would begin on adding the wind element to Rasengan and complete what his dad could not. Jiraiya was there for safe measures as he knew from Minato's experiences what could come out of it. Flashback. Jiraiya had walked onto the training ground one day, looking for his prized student to find the blonde Namikaze in the middle with a Rasengan in hand. Figuring he was working on something with his jutsu, Jiraiya stayed back. For a second, Jiraiya saw a whitish aura around the Rasengan, but it was followed by a massive explosion that sent Minato flying backwards. Minato! Shouted Jiraiya as he ran towards his student. What he saw shook him. Minato had a number of S across his body, with most of them being concentrated around the arm that had held his Rasengan. What the hell was that technique? What was he trying to do? Jiraiya immediately raced his B student to the hospital, hoping that soon it would be able to do something for him. Thankfully she was able to heal Minato back to full, but she was nowhere near happy that Minato had nearly gotten himself K, venting her frustration on Jiraiya for allowing his student to do something like that. Minato didn't attempt to complete his Rasengan until he mastered the Hiraishin, allowing him to flash away if it felt like the Rasengan was going to explode. But even then, Minato had not been able to contain the added power of wind into the Rasengan. End flashback. Jiraiya was hoping the same thing wouldn't repeat itself, but sadly it did. As Naruto formed the Rasengan himself, he began to add his wind element to the sphere. Just as it did with Minato's Rasengan, Naruto's began to glow a whitish color before exploding, and the blonde swore Jiraiya as he went to check on Naruto. When he got there, he saw the same thing that he did on Minato, numerous S all over Naruto's body and clothes. As Jiraiya looked over Naruto's wounds, he saw that they were glowing with red chakra and already healing. Well, at least I don't have to face Tsunade with this one so long as Kurama can heal him. Damn it, that hurt like hell, swore Naruto. Now do you see what I mean about that being the nearly impossible part? Asked Jiraiya. Yeah. The moment I put my wind chakra into it and tried to contain it, it exploded, grunted Naruto as his wounds finished healing. You're not going to stop, are you? Asked Jiraiya, seeing the determined look in Naruto's eyes. Hell no. I said I was going to complete my dad's jutsu and I'm going to complete it, Tobayo. Exclaimed Naruto. Jiraiya sighed. Just promise me you won't talk about this to Tsunade, okay? Naruto grinned at this and rubbed the back of his hand. I also want you to take some time and think on it in between attempts, okay? About a month had passed and Naruto had about as much success as the first time he attempted to add the wind chakra to his Rasengan. Kurama was really beginning to get irritated with Naruto and was tempted to place the blonde on watch after all the times he had seen himself over the past months, even if he really wasn't trying to K himself. As it stood, Naruto was pretty much out of ideas on how to keep the wind element contained within the Rasengan. He had picked Jiraiya's brain a few times for what Minato might have already tried, and even if he could think of a way to try and improve what his dad had thought of doing, it just blew up in his face. No matter what he tried, he just couldn't contain the wind. Speaking of wind, there currently was a rather nice breeze as Naruto was taking a walk along the beach, trying to come up with some idea as to how to complete this jutsu. It was also a big time for the resort village of Ogzarawa as the festival of kites. All along the beach, there were kites of multiple sizes, shapes, and colors aloft in the breeze. Taking a seat along the boardwalk, he watched as a pair of kite enthusiasts began to launch what had to be the largest kite on the beach. It was a large yellow sun, but the moment the kite was up, the wind caught it and began pulling the kite pilots with it. It wasn't long before the two pilots completely lost their kite in the wind as it was blown out to sea from the shore. Now that's what happens when you try to contain the wind, commented a passing pedestrian. Naruto heard this and immediately picked his head up at the passing pedestrian. Excuse me, what did you mean by that? Asked the blonde. It's simple really. You can't contain the wind. That's why all the kites that are successfully flying have some sort of channels to guide the wind, said the pedestrian. Those two fools thought they could steal the show with their massive kite, yet they completely forgot about the fundamentals of kite flying, and that is that your kite has to flow with the wind, not try and capture it. Even a small hole to channel the wind out of the kite would have helped them immensely. Wow, you actually seem as if you know quite a bit about designing kites, Mr. Naruto blanked, not knowing the man's name. Hiroi Sora, the kite master in charge of this festival, said Sora. And I would think I'd know a lot about kites, I've built almost half of them here. Wow, really? That's pretty cool, and so are a lot of the kites here, said Naruto. Thanks kid. Now I've got to get back to work, but please enjoy the festival, said Sora. Naruto happily went on his way, making sure to pick up large cone of cotton candy before heading back to the hotel. On his way back, Naruto was admiring the kites that flowed with the breeze. You know, now that I look at them, I can see what that Sora guy was talking about, thought Naruto. It's like they can get the wind to flow with them, but they never try and hold onto it. Immediately, Naruto came to a halt and his own cotton candy cone fell to the ground in front of him. That's it, was all that escaped his mouth before the blonde went sprinting off to find Ero Sennin. He. Oh yes, you'll do very nicely indeed, said Jiraiya as he was observing some of the early evening female beachgoers, hoping to get some last-minute inspiration to put the finishing touches on his book. Everything was perfect for the Super L, and the best part is there was no annoying brat to get in the way of his research. That is until Ero Sennin, shouted Naruto, running towards Jiraiya and kicking up a trail of sand behind him. Ero Sennin, Ero Sennin. We'll stop that gaki, shouted Jiraiya. We're in public. Sorry, but come on, shouted Naruto as he pulled on a reluctant Jiraiya's arm. Really, what is it you need? Asked an irritated Jiraiya. The Justu. I think I know how to complete it, exclaimed Naruto. Jiraiya's eyes grew wide. Had Naruto really thought of a way to complete the Rasengan? Okay, I'll come with you to make sure you don't see yourself up too bad, sighed Jiraiya. Looks like he wasn't going to be finishing his book tonight, but Naruto really did seem worked up, so maybe the kid had found something after all. The sun was beginning to set already by the time Naruto had dragged Jiraiya to their temporary training ground, and even with night starting to fall, Naruto was bouncing with energy. Okay Naruto, what do you have? Well, I kind of got the idea from the kites. The main reason why adding wind chakra to the Rasengan has kept causing it to blow up is because it was trying to contain the wind instead of letting it flow naturally through the Rasengan, explained Naruto. You can't contain the wind or else it's just going to come back and bite you, hard, but you can flow it. Jiraiya was currently thinking on what Naruto had told him. You know, every time Minato's tried it, he's tried to contain the wind chakra within the jutsu. I don't think he's ever thought about just trying to flow wind through it. The gaki might be onto something. Okay, so you going to give it a go? Asked Jiraiya, now curious if Naruto's revelation was actually going to work. Hell yeah, declared Naruto. Griat, here we go again, thought Kurama. Round number 125 for blowing yourself up kit. Oh just shut it. Naruto then went through the process of making the initial Rasengan, which formed with relative ease in his hand. Now came the hard part. Naruto had to channel his wind chakra into the sphere, but he couldn't contain it. He had to just let the wind flow naturally through the spiraling sphere. Slowly, Naruto began to change his own chakra from normal chakra to wind chakra. The spiraling motion of the chakra had already begun to create air currents around the sphere, and as Naruto introduced more and more wind chakra to the jutsu, he could feel a surprisingly strong breeze coming from the Rasengan itself. As he changed the last of the chakra in the sphere into wind chakra, the Rasengan took on that whitish glow that it had every other time. Before the pressure could build up to the point of explosion though, Naruto allowed for the wind to flow freely through the spiraling sphere as 4 miniature blade-like projections erupted from each side and a high-pitched whistle could be heard coming from the spinning ball. Jiraiya could only help but stare at the accomplishment Naruto had just achieved. Yata, Ero Sennin, I did it, declared Naruto, losing control of the Rasengan and being blown back. Damn it. Hey, the gaki actually did it, thought Jiraiya, still in amazement. Okay Naruto, let's test it and see if it's the real deal. Huh, how are we going to do that? Asked Naruto. Jiraiya formed his own Rasengan in his hand. We're going to clash our two Rasengan. If yours is the real deal, then mine won't have any effect at all. Naruto recreated the wind Rasengan in his hand, taking his time to stabilize it and making sure not to lose concentration. Ready? Asked Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto. Doing what would probably earn him a few years in the hospital, courtesy of Tsunade. If she knew they were doing this, the master and student ran at each other with Rasengan and futon, Rasengan in hand. The two spheres collided and a small explosion ensured with the two jutsu colliding. As Jiraiya looked down at his now pained hand, he saw that his entire arm looked as if it had been put through a blender. Just opposite of him, Naruto appeared to have taken no damage from Jiraiya's attack, and it was unmistakably whose Justu was the stronger of the two. Jiraiya had made sure to make his Rasengan as strong as possible, and if it hadn't been for his own attack taking the brunt of Naruto's, he'd be explaining to Tsunade why he was missing an arm or worse. Ero Sennin, shouted Naruto as he realized just how badly Jiraiya's hand had been injured. Are you okay? Damn, that attack was something, grunted Jiraiya. Sadly, I don't think I'll be able to finish my book for a bit. But I am extremely proud of you. You managed to do something not even myself nor your father could do. As Jiraiya told him that, Naruto worked on bandaging Jiraiya's arm, having been taught rudimentary first aid by Jiraiya. Giving Jiraiya a boost to his feet, the blonde and the L made their way back into town. You know, you truly have grown over these past few years. And I can see that even in your clothes, replied Jiraiya. I think it's about time for another wardrobe change. I'm sure ever since you left the Land of Iron, you've found your old shinobi outfit to be rather small. Naruto grinned at this. He had stopped wearing his shinobi outfit months ago and had been using regular out-of training clothes. One reason was because his old outfit had worn out rather fast after all the physical training he and Jiraiya had done at the movie set and in the Land of Snow. Another was that he had simply outgrown them. There's a shop that sells durable outdoor clothes here. I think it's about time for another wardrobe change. It's the very least I could do for how far you've come. The following day, Jiraiya had taken Naruto to see if he could pick out a new outfit. No, shouted Jiraiya. Oh come on. This jacket's awesome, to buy. Oh. Yeah, but it's almost as orange as that jumpsuit of yours, replied Jiraiya. Naruto had picked out an outfit that consisted of a pair of solid orange pants and a jacket that was orange. So, what's wrong with orange? Even my old outfit had orange in it, replied Naruto. And that outfit was a huge step forward as only your arms had orange, argued Jiraiya. Well, now I'm taking another step forward with this outfit. The arms aren't orange anymore, replied Naruto. Yeah, but everything else is, stated Jiraiya. Naruto may have gotten smarter, but he could still be stubborn at times. Oh come on, but I really like this jacket, pleaded Naruto. Jiraiya took a look at the begging blonde. In all honesty, the jacket wasn't too bad. I mean sure it was orange, but the orange parts could actually be covered up fairly easy, such as with a flax jacket. At the same time, it would take care of the more easily visible orange sleeves, seeing as the sleeves on this jacket were black. The main issue was the pants Naruto had selected. The pants were solid orange and couldn't be covered as easily. Okay, I'll make you a deal. I'll get you that jacket, but go and get a different pair of pants, replied Jiraiya, making a compromise with the blonde. Really, you'll get it, exclaimed Naruto. Only if you get a pair of pants that don't screams, me now, replied Jiraiya. And I actually saw some metal-plated gloves. Grab a pair of those if you want something to seal your kunai and stuff in there. As Naruto and Jiraiya were making their selection, secretly the tailor at the counter was cheering. He had been waiting for the day when he could get rid of that orange jacket. He would have to put up with it for another day or two to add the red spiral on the back and the white spiral on the right shoulder, but he was finally going to be rid of that orange stain in his shop. As Naruto had left the shop, Jiraiya had stayed behind. So you want to add this to the order? Asked the tailor. Yeah, it shouldn't be too much extra, should it? Asked Jiraiya. No, it'll take me a few days extra as I need to start from scratch, but this won't be too much more, replied the tailor. Good, and don't include it with the rest of the order. I kind of want for it to be a surprise for the kid, said Jiraiya. I see. I shall have it done in 3 days. You may pick it up then, sir, replied the tailor. Hey Ero-sennin, so how much longer until you can teach me this senjutsu stuff? Asked Naruto as he and Jiraiya were walking back towards the hotel. Jiraiya was still resting his now bandaged arm and couldn't do too much writing. Thankfully for him, Naruto had proven a decent writer for the last portion of the book and all he had to do was feed Naruto the ideas and outline of the chapter. They were on the very last chapter, and if they could get it finished by the end of the week, then Jiraiya would most certainly be a happy writer as he sent the draft to his publisher for publishing. Well, I talked with the Toads before you blew my arm up and they said that the preparations for training you would be complete in a little more than a month. I take it you've finished what you were planning on doing and if everything goes alright, I'll have my book ready for publishing by the end of the week, said Jiraiya. So what are we going to do until then? Asked Naruto. Naruto, let me talk to the L for a moment, said Kurama. Ha, okay Kurama, replied Naruto as Kurama took control of Naruto's body for a moment. Jiraiya, spoke Kurama through Naruto's voice. That you Kurama? Asked Jiraiya. This was only the second time he had seen Kurama take control of Naruto's body and he was still not quite used to it. Kurama nodded. Look, seeing as you've still got a month to go before those toads take over the kid's training for a bit, I want to take him and train him a bit myself while we have some time. He still needs a lot of practice in the full potentials of using my powers. The only problem is that this isn't something we can do close to any sort of civilization. So you want to take Naruto out into the wilderness for a little? Asked Jiraiya. Kurama nodded. I'll admit, that first time using my full form wasn't terrible, but he needs to improve with both his coordination in my form and there are a few skills I have to train him how to use properly. I see. Will this make it so he doesn't nearly flatten me with a wayward tail again? Asked Jiraiya, earning a slight chuckle from Kurama. Trust me, when I'm through with him, those tails are going to be the least of your worries, said Kurama, sending a slight chill down Jiraiya's spine. Fine. As great as this place is, I'm starting to run low on inspiration from it. You can only get so much before having to move on. I should be done with my book by the week's end. We'll leave then, said Jiraiya. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.